you're content to go back fully public again, as we were before?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. A short pause while everything is rearranged.
Sara, returning to your relationship with James Thompson, we're now exploring the platonic phase of your relationship. So this is after you've received this letter, you've discussed the letter with him, the relationship is on a new non-sexual footing. You say this about this new phase in your witness statement. This is 38210 3.33. That's page 13. And you say, after this, we continued to spend much time together for several months, although we were no longer having sex with each other. For me, it was possible to make the shift to a non-sexual relationship because our connection was so strong on so many levels. We still delighted in each other's company, and of course, the continued close relationship meant that I held on to a hope that he would change his mind with time, or that we could somehow work it out. It was on my mind all the time. So I understand from that you remained sufficiently close that you believed there was a hope, at least, that the sexual relationship might rekindle.
I think it was more of a hope that we would somehow manage to work it out and stay as a couple with or without that, if I am really honest and think about it now.
You mean remain as a couple, but maybe not
either way,
having a sex?
Either way, yeah.
But
I wasn't being that realistic at the time, but that's how it felt for me at the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
But essentially you thought the relationship, in whatever form it took, had a future of sorts?
Possibly, I hope so.
Right. I understand you continue to be close. Did he ever seem sad or preoccupied about this change in the relationship?
Not notably, but it obviously was a major change, but the closeness between us was still there. So in a way, it was difficult to say.
Right, but you have no recollection of him expressing sort of regrets about the fact that you weren't having sex or that things had shifted, right? No. You referred earlier briefly, Sara, to his mentioning the possibility of his relocating to America. Mm-hmm. You talk about this in your witness statement. I don't think we need to bring it up, but it's paragraph 3.35.
Yeah.
And you talk there about the impact that had on you and how that affected you, and it made you feel desolate. Are you able to pinpoint at all when he told you that, in the context of your relationship moving from the sexual relationship, if that went on until early 2000?
It was definitely before September 2000, because that's when I went abroad on a holiday where I made a decision to return to that country to live. And that was based on the fact that he was going to be leaving.
I understand.
So it took away the hope that we would have any sort of, we might remain friends from locations away, but it took away any hope there. So it was definitely before September, and going back, it was probably before, I would say maybe the spring.
Right. Okay. So quite early in 2000, do you think? And can you assist us, Sara, with just what he said, what reasons he gave you for?
Oh, because his ex-partner's partner's job was moving to America, so they were moving the whole family there. And because, of course, because of the job that he had, as a film location manager, he could pretty much move to. He would still be able to work there,
Yeah.
doing the job that he was doing. So
And
he was going to go for the sake of his children, basically, who he'd always made clear were, the priority of his life.
Exactly, but that's what I was going to say. It was all part and parcel of his devoted relationship with his children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just finally on this topic, you say at paragraph 3.36 of your witness statement, on page 14, you say, despite the content of the letter and his stated intention to move to the States, we continued to be close and to see each other regularly. And he said nothing more for the time being about moving to America. We also remained in contact when we were working abroad. I still had hope that we would rekindle our sexual relationship. So really, his behaviour towards you, if I understand correctly, was still sufficiently warm and affectionate that hope in your heart persisted.
Yeah. I think I have to say, on reading that now, I don't know if I still had hope that we'd rekindle.
Right.
I might want to go backwards on that one. I think the hope was there that we would still be able to go forward in some way.
I understand.
And that we'd still be in contact, even if whatever happened, really, that we would maintain some sort of relationship.
Moving now, Sara, to your trip to Goa and James Thompson's trip to Goa. Is it your understanding that over the course of your relationship with James Thompson, both sexual and non-sexual, that he went to Goa twice?
Yes.
Looking at what I understand to be the first trip, but I'll explore this with you. If you could bring up Powerbase, please, 35222, page 15. So this is at B13. This part of the interview has been compiled from information gleaned from you, Sara, but also some other people who I understand were on the trip.
Yeah.
And it says this. Straven went to India in late 1999 with some people from the Croydon Hunt Saboteur group to visit friends who had set up a cat and dog rescue centre there. Sara remembers he came back full of enthusiasm for how great India was, how relaxing, how he had played football on the beach with the kids. He really loved it. With some others, she went to India Jan 2000 for 2 weeks. He visited for a week because he had other things to do for his job. It was relaxing time, with no animals activity apart from helping out at the animal rescue centre. And then it says, Mark thought it was a bit understand from your evidence so far that you moved abroad around March 2001. Is that accurate?
That is, yeah.
And that part of your decision-making process was the fact that you had given up hope that your
Yeah, it was
relationship...
definitely a contributing factor to making that decision. And I know if I had still been with him in a relationship, I probably would not have made that decision. I wouldn't have made that decision, yeah.
So you were taking very concrete steps to move on?
Yes.
Right. Looking now at your discovery that he had entered into a sexual relationship with Ellie, you talk about this in your witness statement at paragraphs 3.48 to 3.49. That's UCPI 38210, page 16. Paragraphs 3.48 is where we start. And you say, James and I initially remained close, and we did talk about him coming to visit, but he never did. You say that later.
Yeah.
I always harboured hope, somewhere in my heart. I thought he would always be part of my life.
Yeah.
And then at 3.49, you say, soon after moving abroad, within a few weeks, someone from the group told me that James started seeing Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just so I'm clear, you were still in touch with James at this point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and when I say I always harboured hope somewhere in my heart, I'd moved on from thinking we were ever going to be a couple.
Yeah.
But I always thought we would still be, he would always be part of my life, you know, in some way, as a friend or, yeah, as a friend, really.
And even though you were still in contact with him, he didn't tell you that he was seeing Ellie. You had to hear it from someone else. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you feel when you found that out?
Shattered, if I'm really honest. Confused, completely and utterly confused.
Yeah.
And that was because it was because of the closeness that we'd always had. So in my mind, it was like, well, if we were that close and it was a sexual thing that stopped the relationship, why wouldn't he have carried on just seeing me? Why was he starting a relationship that I knew to be sexual with somebody else?
Yeah.
So it completely confused. It took me until I found out in 2018 to get my head around what that was all about. With the background that we had. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I also had deep concern for the fact that he was going to take somebody else down the path that he'd taken me. I think it's probably in my statement, but I emailed him about that and was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
If you're about to start down the same pathway that you did with me. So it caused a lot of confusion, a lot of angst.
Yeah. And a lot of pain, I understand, from your witness statement.
Yeah.
You've mentioned it just now, and you do refer to this in your witness statement, that you say that you sent him an email. Was that around, if we're saying that you found out that he'd started a sexual relationship with Ellie a few weeks maybe after you'd moved abroad?
Yeah.
Did you email him around that time? So we're talking...
Yes, I would have done, yeah.
Around summer 2001?
It might have even been a bit earlier than that. It might have been. I went in March. It could have even been April, May. I think it was earlier than the summer. Okay.
And you set out in your witness statement what you said in that email. This is at paragraph 3.52 of your witness statement. And you say that you asked James by email why he'd started a relationship with Ellie. I said that it did not make sense to me in light of his stated reasons for his decision to end our relationship and the fact he was moving to the States. He didn't reply, and I never heard from him again. I think I sent him one more email and didn't receive a reply. So I understand from that you never got an answer from him about how he was able to start another sexual relationship in light of what he told you in that letter.
No.
How did that make you feel?
Confused. I can't even remember if I was angry. I think it was just like it just didn't make sense. It was confusion more than anything. I would say was the overriding
Yeah.
feeling from all of that.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had obviously moved on, meant I wasn't going to chase behind him. If he wasn't going to answer me, then just to leave him be to get on with what he was doing.
Yeah, understood. You've mentioned this earlier in your evidence, Sara, but going back to it briefly, at paragraph 3.54 of your witness statement, you refer to the casual relationship that you had in summer 2000 with that individual that we've identified between ourselves. And you say that it was mostly just a comfort to share what was happening for me with someone and to have some reassurance about my desirability after James's decision to end our sexual relationship. Mm-hmm. So I understand that to mean that your self-esteem had taken quite a serious knock.
Yeah.
From the way you've been treated by James Thompson. I understand from your evidence thus far that you and James were actually still quite close at that stage. Obviously not physically, but you were in a close friendship.
Yeah, we weren't obviously in a sexual relationship, and I think we had started to see less of each other at that point, but we were always close right up until I went abroad.
And at that time, you entered the relationship. Did you tell James about the relationship then?
No.
Why was that?
Because I didn't want him to know, because I think there was still in my heart the hope that we would somehow work it out at some point.
3.54 of your witness statement, it's page 18, you say, at some point James was told that I had been seeing this man. He wrote to me when I had moved abroad and asked why I had shared a room with him in January 2000 on the Goa trip if I was seeing someone else. I was not seeing this man when I went away with him in 2000. James had the dates wrong. In this email, he basically questioned my morals, which now I know the truth, I find abhorrent. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so he basically, so that relationship that I had, that started in the summer after we'd been to Goa in the January. It hadn't started the summer before that.
Yeah. Don't worry if you can't remember, but did you get this communication from him before or after you found out he was seeing Ellie? Can you recall?
Before.
Right. But in essence, what he was doing in this email, I mean, it could be described as gaslighting and that he was twisting things to put you in the wrong. Would you agree with that characterisation?
I'm trying to think of the concept of the email. So he had found out, he'd emailed me and questioned me about, I don't know if it was gaslighting or not, but he definitely questioned why had I shared a room with him if I had been seeing somebody else.
So it implied that you had been giving him some sort of false hope. Is that fair to say?
Or I was, deceiving him.
Right.
Yeah.
Not being honest with him. Yeah.
Yeah, why was I sharing a room if I was already with somebody else? But I wasn't at that point. So, he was questioning my morals, I guess. Yeah.
And did you make those points to him? Did you reply to this?
Yeah, I replied to say that he'd got his dates wrong.
Right.
And that wasn't the case. And I don't think he ever answered that.
Right. I just want to take you very briefly, Sara, just to some records of phone contact from James Thompson to you. It's only one way, if you see what I mean. I can't see any records of your calls to him. But if we could bring these up, please. MPS 0719641. Sir, it's at B11. I realise this is an exercise, probably a futile exercise, because obviously this is a very long time ago, but I just want to refer you, Sara, to some specific instances of apparent contact, at least him trying to contact you, and see if it rings any bells. If we could go to page 8 of this document, the top of the page, I think you can see, do you see your name, Sara, just on the right-hand side? Can you see it's highlighted in yellow?
At the top, yeah.
Yeah, and that.
And then further down, there's another one.
Yeah, but this one at least was because a lot of the calls he makes to you are of no duration, which suggests that maybe he just hung up or there was no actual chat. But this one was on the 14th of May 2001, and this shows that it lasted 2 minutes 41 seconds. I understand, I think yes, I do understand that you'd moved abroad by that point. Do you have any recollection of any phone contacts around that time?
We might have done, because we were still in touch when I first moved.
Right.
That would make sense. So I guess he found out, or I found out about Ellie after that date, because we would still have been in touch.
Okay.
We talked about him possibly coming out, yeah. That is possible.
Okay, well that takes me to my next question, actually. If I can take you to page 40 of this document.
2001 was that?
2001, yes, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yes, on page 4, is this page 40? Yeah. And if I could, hang on, sorry. There's a phone call apparently on the 21st of October 2001. Yeah, so if you can see, Sara, it's where your name appears, looking from the bottom. It's the first time your name appears from the bottom up. And it shows that on the 21st of October 2001, it seems that there was a call from him to you which lasted 6 minutes 12 seconds. So on your evidence, that would appear to be after you'd found out about Ellie.
Yeah, I don't remember. I really don't remember having any contact with him after all that finding out of Ellie and him emailing me about the relationship that I had.
Yeah, I understand. So just for completeness, I don't think we need to look at it because that I understand your evidence. But the last contact between you, according to these records, I mean, the thing is, we don't know obviously whether or not you spoke to him. It just shows that he rang you.
Yeah. The fact that it's 6 minutes is confusing because I certainly don't remember.
Yeah.
He disappeared from the point that I wrote in my statement, and I don't remember having had any contact with him after that.
Do you have any recollection maybe of him leaving you a voicemail or anything like that?
Maybe he did and I didn't get it, but not that I'm aware of.
Right. And again, just for completeness, we don't need to look at it, but these records show that the final contact between you was on, well, the final time he contacted you, I should say, is the 18th of February 2002. And that was lasted 25 seconds. So
I have no recollection of him. And I would remember.
Yeah, understood. Just very briefly, if we could look at your emotional state just after you lost contact with him, but before you found out the truth. You talk about this, Sara, in your witness statement at paragraphs 4.1 to 4.4. And again, you talk very eloquently and openly about how that affected you. And if I understand correctly, you continued to be plagued by distressing dreams and disturbing dreams. And after a particularly harrowing dream in 2013-14, you decided to burn all your journals that referred to him, photographs of him, anything you had in your possession that related to him or referred to him. Is that accurate?
And the letter.
And the letter.
And the letter that he'd sent me, which I'd kept, yeah.
And if I understand correctly, that was almost sort of ceremonial purge. It was a way of just trying to exercise.
It was trying to get him out of my system, and I want to point it out, as what I said earlier, is that was in 2013.
Right.
Or 14 or 13, I think.
Yeah.
So that was 12 years after all this had happened.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, I just reiterate to the inquiry that these relationships didn't end when they ended.
Yeah.
You know, they carried on.
No, I understand. So it had a long-standing effect on you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Moving now to when you actually found out the truth, Sara. Again, you talk about this very eloquently in your witness statement at paragraphs 3.57 to 3.58. And you describe how before you actually found out the truth, there were suspicions mounting amongst your group of friends. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't. There was a one or two, probably two occasions when it came up, and the first time was a friend of mine that had said, had I ever considered, this is when I'd come back to England to live, that he may have been undercover, and and it's in here, I can remember just being completely, it didn't, it wasn't something, I don't keep up with the papers, I didn't know what was going on. And I can just remember being completely thrown by that, and then saying, no, it wasn't, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well,
On one hand, it was like, my God, it could explain some things, but it was so out there for me. I didn't really take that seriously.
Yeah. And again, you
even
continued.
having answered that questionnaire, yeah.
Yeah, and you continued again to give them the benefit of the doubt, even after all those
and
years.
then I think very close to when I got the letter from the inquiry.
Yeah.
Somebody from that group had contacted me just to say, I'm pretty sure he was.
Right.
And I can remember just challenging that person, saying, well, on whose say so? Where have you got that information from?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I can remember saying, until that's proven, I don't believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So it just didn't, I didn't really take it on board.
And was that in large part because of the closeness of your connection with him?
Yeah.
As you understood it.
And also just it's just not something you can imagine happening. No. Yes, it was to do with that. It was to do not just with his closeness to me, but other people in our group as well. The fact that he was such an integrated part of our group. Yeah. And for me, at that time, it was like having had the letter about all his sexual difficulties and the abuse and everything else. It was like, well, that happens to people. And he, that could be why he compartmentalizes his life. It's a way of coping with what happened. Yeah. So for me, it was like, that could be completely plausible.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if I understand correctly, you trusted him and you trusted what he'd told you, and you had no reason not to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You thought. You found out the truth in August 2018 when you were informed by a letter from the inquiry. You talk in your witness statement at paragraph 4.17 about the cataclysmic effect that had on you. And I understand your immediate reaction, Sara, was one of shock, anger, confusion. But there was also some relief that you weren't crazy. Is that accurate?
Well, after years of confusion and trying to work out it, and I put in my statement, it was like layers of an onion coming off, it takes time to make that switch from what was to what is. It's not overnight. It took, I would say, months, year, whatever. It's still ongoing in some ways. But for me, it was like, oh my God, that's why the situation with Ellie happened, because none of that was the truth. So in a way, I mean, there were times, especially with the dreams, I mean, and again, I put it in my statement, there's some, and this is proven, the psyche knows when something's off. Even it's a subconscious thing. And I think there were times, when I burnt those journals, it's like, am I nuts? Why can't I move on from this? Because it didn't make sense. So I used to question my own feelings and stuff around it. I did feel crazy at times. So in a way, there was a relief in finally knowing that there was a good reason why I'd felt like that. But then there was also anger because of all the guilt that I'd carried about talking about that letter, about him thinking I'd had a relationship when I was still with him in that way, So there was a relief. Yeah. And it was also to think, God, I wasn't crazy to feel like I was feeling in all those years. So
you also, at 4.22 of your witness statement, refer to feeling fearful, and you say that you felt unsafe and like I might be under scrutiny. The first few weeks after receiving the letter from the inquiry, I felt he might just turn up again. I worried that he might turn up at my house, or I could bump into him in the street. So it seems you were specifically scared about bumping into him.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for us, Sara?
This isn't in the statement, but about a week before I got that letter, I was walking down the street and I saw somebody who I thought this is before I knew any of this. And I can just remember doing a double take. It wasn't him, but there was something going on before that letter came. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, when you find out that you've been spied on, it rocks the very foundation of your life. And for me, it was like, God, is he gonna maybe want me to keep silent? Is he gonna come and threaten? Is something gonna happen like that? It just, and I go into this later on in my statement, but yeah, it left me, and I would say that went on for quite a long time. And then I found out what his job was and what he'd studied. And part of my work had been in conflict zones with the job that I had, and I realised that I could have bumped into him if I hadn't have gone to abroad as well. So there was a sense of, is he on my case?
Yeah. And that you
Because,
felt...
by that time it was obvious that he was going to be in some sort of trouble. And was he maybe going to try and get me to keep quiet? That's how I felt.
I see. So that was an additional stress.
And also, the
stress.
audacity of what happened, it wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah.
If he'd have just turned up, So,
yeah. Well, I suppose at that stage you felt like anything was possible.
Yeah. There's no words to describe that feeling. And I think only the other women who it happened to would be able to understand the depth of that fear. Yeah.
In terms of the longer term impact that it's had on you, Sara, you talk about this in your witness statement at paragraphs 4.23 to 4.26. Do you want to just tell us just briefly about that, about the long term effect that it's had on you and your ability to trust people and the police generally?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's ongoing. I don't know whether that will ever go away. So I think, as I write here, the actual effects of it are like an onion that keep peeling, and that's been pretty much ongoing. Even when you think they're all lost, something else happens. You find out something 2 weeks ago that I didn't know. So I think what it did is the safety level, of course. It annihilates any, I started to do things like I would park in a little car park near where I used to work, but I stopped parking there because it was dark, and I would park. It changed my behaviour.
Yeah.
It changed my feeling of safety completely. And until I moved a year ago, if ever anything disappeared in my house that I couldn't find, my response was always, who's been in my house? And that is a really hard thing to live with. And something happens that you just get used to it. It becomes a new norm. And it's only when I've looked back that I realise that how much of an impact that is.
Yeah.
And for me, I would say it's completely and utterly annihilated any sense of trust. It's annihilated my trust in the state, in the police. I don't know where I would go if something happened to me. I think it affected my mental health. I don't think, I know it affected my mental health. It affected a concentration and ability to relax, and that is ongoing to this day. That's never returned to the level that it was at before. And I just feel like my life's been invaded again and again and again. And I've written that in my report. We've had, for something that was not of my doing, I've had police psychiatrists questioning me. I've had all my medical records gone through, very personal details of my life, apart from what James Thompson witnessed in my own life. I went through some very serious decisions about my spiritual life that he was privy to, you know, parts of my life that are so private or intimate. So I think, yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say on that.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been triggering to see the police around and things like that. It's affected my trust, not just on the police, but in general. And that is also ongoing. That's never gone away completely.
I think you also say in your witness statement that you think you don't need to go into any detail, but you think it also affected your marriage.
I think so, because there was always that going on in the background. You know, it came to the fore a lot, you know. I mean, I'm out burning journals at 5 o'clock in the morning in 2013. And I was still married at that point. But, you know, for that whole period, it never really went away. So, yeah, I do think it could have done. And the I don't know, the shock, you know, of the absolute disregard. You know, one of the major things for me is that the UCOs were asked if they were ever concerned about the women finding out. And I understand it's not just me that this is the answer is about, but that they have said, and I know that he said, no, he never worried about us finding out because they were being kept private. Nowhere is there any consideration of what would happen when the relationships had to break up. So all they were concerned about was whether or not they were going to get found out. So they weren't worried about that because they were protected. But nowhere is there the remorse about what would happen to us when they had to break the relationship. And for me, it was 2 years. For other women, it's been 5. And I think that is a fundamental thing that, and I'm sure it's been noted with all the other women that have given evidence. But there is no, I read that he has remorse about the effect he's had on the family of Kevin Crossland, bitter regret or something he writes. I don't read that about what's happened to myself and Ellie or Wendy, come to that.
Finally, Sara, I just want to give you an opportunity briefly. I want to bring your attention to the reaction within the MPS and the SDS when they found out that James Thompson had sexual relationships, and just to give you the opportunity to comment on that and on what appears to be evidence of advice that was being imparted within the unit at that time. You comment in your witness statement on the tradecraft manual, and I know you were taken to that, the relevant paragraph of the tradecraft manual, which was published around May 1996, so around the time that James Thompson entered the SDS. And the guidance that was given there, this had the status of informal guidance, but there is new recruits were encouraged to read it, and they were directed towards it. And I'll just read it out. It's at 5.63. Oh, I should add also, this was written by Andrew Coles, who Jessica, you know who he is. And it says this at 5.6.3, while you may try to avoid any sexual encounter, there may come a time when your lack of interest may become suspicious. In these circumstances, you can either try to introduce an appropriate male or female from your own relations or friends to meet the wearies on a few occasions, or ask the office if they can find an ex-SDS operative to fill such a role. Both options are fraught with difficulty, and you must make up your own mind about how to proceed. If you have no other option but to become involved with a weary, you should try to have fleeting, disastrous relationships with individuals who are not important to your sources of information. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to comment on that.
So it goes back to the question when the inquiry lawyers first came to visit me after having that letter, that my question to them was, how far up the line does this go, that this was authorised? And I put in a formal complaint about that. Right. So my feeling all along was, yes, they were, that for me is encouragement to have relationships. And having just listened to what I've said and to what all the other women have said, I find that utterly misogynistic and outrageous.
I'd like to take you to another piece of evidence. This is a little bit complicated, but I'm not sure if you understand or if you've been made aware of this, but that HN16 James Thompson had a mentor when James Thompson was in the SDS, and this mentor was N1, who had the cover name Matt Rayner. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watched HN1's evidence, but he admitted to sexual relationships, deceitful sexual relationships, in particular with Denise Fuller. He was HN16's mentor at the time that James Thompson was deployed. Mm-hmm. James Thompson says that he's unable to recollect having any conversations with HN1 about his sexual relationships while undercover. But there is a document, I'm not going to take you to it because it'll become too laboured, but there's a document that shows that HN1 was aware, at least around May 2002, that James Thompson had sexual relationships. Yeah. And for the transcript, I'll just read that out. That's MPS 0719806. And we know from that HN1 informed DI HN53 of that fact. And I'll come to even more senior management in a moment. But now, another officer, HN14, this is Jim Boyling, who also had, I think, 3 or 4 sexual relationships in his undercover identity. He says this in his witness statement about what HN1 said to him. And HN1 at that time was still in the SDS, but he was HN14's mentor. Just bearing that in mind. So this is a man who mentored subsequently James Thompson, but he also mentored Jim Boyling. This is what Jim Boyling said HN1 said to him. And this is not actually on Epic. We can't bring this up, but for the transcript, this is Jim Boyling's witness statement, is paragraph 37. He says, I remember HN1 was particularly candid because he was my field mentor. I overlapped slightly with HN1, who ceased to deployment, I think sometime in 1996. He had been in a relationship when deployed and discussed this with me. I remember him saying words to the effect of that as an undercover, you were never going to break through the glass ceiling of acceptance. You were never going to get the acceptance of the inner circle unless they had confidence in you. And this would not be forthcoming if you were perceived to be a single man living alone. Confidence could come from seeing you in a relationship with a fellow activist. This discussion with HN1 was pre my deployment, when in the back office, and in the early months of my deployment. This was similar to discussions with other previously deployed and currently deployed undercover officers. It was not considered to be a major issue, as it now is. So this goes further than tradecraft. This is, in essence, encouraging sexual relationships as a way of breaking through. I wanted to give you the opportunity to comment on that.
I find it difficult to comment on it. I think we've said it all. It's for me, it's just unbelievable. That there was no consideration for the impact that would have on us whatsoever. There was no consideration given to their wives and partners. And I also, my understanding is, as you said, it was known, I thought it was 2001, but in 2002 that he was having relationships, and it was decided not to be divulged to us to protect the SDS. So for 17 years of my life earlier, I could have known that and been saved quite a lot of distress, actually. But it seems that there's no importance given to the impact on us whatsoever in any of this. And I find that abhorrent and shocking. And I have a lot more to say about that, but you get the picture.
I absolutely do. I mean, just very finally on this point, I think you're aware that when James Thompson's misuse of his cover identity, his unauthorised trips, became known within the SDS, he then was subject to some sort of disciplinary process. He was interviewed. in September 2002. There were several interviews, but the final one took place on the 18th of September 2002. He was interviewed by Detective Chief Superintendent Black and Detective Superintendent McLachlan. I'm not going to bring up the document, but just again for the transcript, the reference is MPS 072289. It's a S10, so in case you want to look at it. But it's clear from this document that Detective Chief Superintendent Black knew that he had had sexual relationships while undercover. So that is referred to on page 11. I'll read it out. He says, I've explained to DS Thompson... No, apologies, that's actually the wrong bit. He says, page 11, on the penultimate paragraph of that page, Detective Chief Superintendent Black says, in addition to the issues raised above, namely all the things that, the breaches of discipline that James Thompson committed during his deployment, in addition to the issues raised above, it is clear that he has entered into relationships in the course of his work which are inappropriate. So that's evidence that he knew then.
Yeah.
But the sanction that James Thompson, DS Thompson at that time, received, this is on page 11, his operation is to stop forthwith, his vetting status will be reduced and reviewed, and in that for now he will work under close supervision on A squad. I have told him he's come very close to central discipline and criminal investigations, and that if it were not for the secret nature of the operation and the need to protect his colleagues, he would be long gone. So that's as far as that went. I just wondered whether you wanted to comment on that. I appreciate you said a lot on this topic already.
Yeah. No, I have no further comments.
Just to sum up, Sara, it's not entirely clear on the evidence whether James Thompson was married when he was deployed, but it's not in dispute that he was in a serious long-term sexual relationship. Would you have entered into a sexual relationship with him had you known that?
No.
Would you have consented to a sexual relationship with James Thompson had you known that your relationship with him had no future at all?
No.
Would you have consented to a sexual relationship with James Thompson had you known he was an undercover police officer?
No.
Those are all the questions I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no Rule 10 questions, as I understand it.
No, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Would you wish to re-examine, and if so, now or after a break?
That's up to you and Sara.
Quite. I'm not sure quite how long you're likely to be. That may influence her view about the matter.
I don't have very many questions, but Sara will know what she wants to say.
If it's okay, Sarah, I would like to have a short break.
Of course. Is 10 minutes enough, or would you like a quarter of an hour?
Perfect, thank you.
10 minutes, right. We'll break for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Bye.
just so you know, John, I've been asked to clarify something.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, Sara. Just before we pass you over to your counsel, I just need to clarify something for the record. When I referred previously to the document MPS 072229, that's at S10, sir, pages 10 to 12, and this is a note of the interview between DCS Black and Detective Superintendent McLachlan with James Thompson, and I referred to a note made by DCS Black on page 11, which said, in addition to the issues raised above, it is clear that he, as in James Thompson, has entered into relationships in the course of his work which are inappropriate. I said that was evidence that DCS Black knew. I should have said it suggests that DCS Black knew that James Thompson engaged in sexual relationships, and I should have emphasised that we have yet to hear from former Detective Chief Superintendent Black on what he understood that to mean at the time.
Thank you.
Ms. Kilroy.
Sara, before I turn to my questions, there is just one point of clarification that you were asked about in relation to the second trip to Goa. Do you have the cipher list in front of you?
Yes.
You said that there were some individuals with you on that trip who were on that cipher list. Are you able to indicate, without saying their names, which ones on this list?
Okay, so I think I said L1 already.
Yes.
And then if we go down, to the last paragraph relevant to the following document, MPS 0527635.
Yes.
On the first line,
Yes.
the first two names. And then on the third line, page 13, it says the first one again, the second one, and the fourth name. And that's it.
So on this second reference to page 13, the first name, the second one, and the fourth one.
Oh, who I remember were not on the trip with us, but were out there, living there.
So that I can follow this, could someone provide me with a copy of the list from which you're working?
Would you like?
If I could borrow it, I will give it back to you. Thank you. Are the underlinings here, are they of significance?
Yeah. Those were the ones that we understood Sara to be referring to.
Yes, I follow.
So, but in addition to that, L1.
Yes.
It may be possible to check that after the event.
Yes.
Just in case there's been a misunderstanding.
Certainly, there's no reason at all why that shouldn't be done behind the scenes. Can I give it back to you? Thank you.
Sara, you have spoken today about the period of time between the end of the relationship and finding out that Thompson was an undercover officer, and what you described just now as the 17 years of distress that you were caused as a result of not knowing when you could have been told. Is there anything more that you want to say about that?
I find that incredible. I'm sort of beyond words on that, really. I just find it incredible that there was no importance given to the impact on our lives.
Do you want to describe in any more detail than you have what that impact was when you had ended the relationship, but you were processing the confusion that Thompson's behaviour caused you
During those 17 years
during
before
those
finding
17
out, you mean?
Yes.
I would say, yeah, just to reiterate, there was so much confusion about, the fact that he went on into another relationship. It made me doubt it affected my own self-esteem enormously. It made me question what that was all about. Confusion. I suppose what I'm saying again is confusion. And the other one is the guilt that I carried, feeling awful that I had betrayed him by talking about what was in that letter. And I think the dreams for me, I have had other relationships and been able to move on from them with the usual healing. And there was something for me that just impacted my life were the dreams. Just keep having these distressing dreams that he would always come and then be disappearing off again. I was just left in this shattered state wondering what was going on. It affected my psyche in ways that it's difficult to put it into words, but I just never could get my head around it. And I think if I'd have known that in 2000, very close to when the relationship ended, it could have made a big difference to my life and my mental health, actually.
Thank you. And are there any other matters that you would like to speak to the inquiry about?
Yeah, there's a few. I had quite a long list. I'm glad to say that a lot of that was covered during the questioning, and I was able to be clear on it. There's maybe four things. One of the things I want to pick up on is that James Thompson says in his statement that he was only ever a close associate of Wendy, and I refute that. They were very good friends, and I'm sure she would say the same. So that is not true. They had a good friendship. So I just want to point that out. That was a much stronger association than he's claiming in his statement. I think the other thing that really concerns me, and I brought this up, I think in 2021 when we did mediation with Helen Ball and co. And this was shortly after the Sara Everard case. And there was talk about the Metropolitan Police putting undercover, I can't even say this, so we're going to put undercover officers in nightclubs to protect women. And for me, please do not put those men in charge of our safety, ever. And I just want to be clear on that. I found that so shocking. After what they've done, to put them in charge of women's safety anywhere is unthinkable. And I'm sure that it's clear, not just from my statement and my evidence, but from the other women, that it's clear how you realise how truly shattering these relationships are. They're shattering. And I also want to say it's been a journey, you know, of recovery. And I thought I was getting there, but I see from today that the impact is still there, how deeply impacted my life has been by them. And please do not allow this to happen again. And I'm standing here for other women, and I wouldn't be here for any other reason. Please do not allow this to happen again. And that's all I have to say. And thank you.
Thank you, Sara. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
As I'm sure you know, I am not in charge of policing, and although I can make my own views clear to those who are, all I can do, like you, is to hope that your views and mine will be paid heed to. May I conclude by thanking you for taking the very great trouble and putting yourself a great deal more than inconvenience and worry, but putting yourself through what is plainly a difficult process in giving live evidence to me at the inquiry. It has been of immense value. I'm very grateful to you for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
We will resume at 10 o'clock on Monday.
Otherwise.